Hi, I'm Sasha.
And I'm Serafina.
And welcome back to our SNS podcast.
It's Final Four weekend for men and women's basketball in college.
And our guest today coached in the tournament this year.
Today's guest is this year's Horizon League Coach of the Year from Robert Morris, Andrew Toole.
As a player, Coach Toole helped lead his team, University of Pennsylvania basketball team, to the NCAA tournament twice.
As a coach, he helped lead 3 of his teams to the NCAA tournament, with the most recent being this year where they lost a close game to Alabama.
Now let's get on to the interview.
Good morning, Coach.
Morning.
Thank you for being on our podcast.
Happy to be here.
Now let's get on to the questions.
We first wanted to congratulate you on an awesome year in the Horizon League Championship. Can you tell us what your favorite part of the season was?
Great question. So there was a lot of favorite parts of the season, and I think a lot of people would say, winning a championship and, hearing that final buzzer go off, was that the most gratifying part of the season? And certainly it was a huge moment for our program and for our players. But I think some of the moments that occur that the public doesn't get to see, those are my favorite parts, right? When you start to see your team come together, when you have some experiences on the bus or in a team hotel, where you think that your team is finally starting to understand what the coaches are constantly talking to them about. Those are some of my favorite moments. And one in particular, I would say, was we played a game at Cleveland State this year, and we were down in the first half, and we had a pretty, animated timeout. And I was talking a lot. Our other coaches were talking a lot. The players were talking a lot. And we came out of that timeout and we went on a big run and kind of took a little bit of control of the game. And I think that was one of my favorite moments of the year because it felt like everybody was on the same page and everybody understood what needed to get done. And as a coach, that's your biggest hope, is that at some point in time during the course of the year, everybody will be on the same page and start to be connected and figure out what is the best way for our team to be successful.
The next question is, can you tell us what your favorite part of the season was? Oh, you first became the head coach of Robert Morris at 29 years old. What are some of the challenges you faced being so young when you first started?
There's a lot of challenges when you become a head coach for the first time, period, right? There's an emotional roller coaster that you're on. And there's some crazy highs and lows. I think being 29, I think just getting, like a lot of young people, getting people to take you seriously is a challenge. That you understand what you're doing, that you're prepared, that you're communicating the right things. People look at you and say, well, how would this guy know what he's supposed to say here or what we're supposed to do here because he's only 29 years old? But I think if you are preparing yourself every day and you're working on building really good relationships with your players and your coaches, I think regardless of what age you are, they know that you're going to be able to help them be successful. And that was my biggest goal being 29, was to make sure that I could help them, be successful in the games by giving them the right information, by making sure that we were prepared and organized in practice, that we understood what our opponents' tendencies were so that we could try to take advantage of some of their weaknesses. And that's all my focus was on. And I probably worried less about my age than everybody else did, because I was just worried about trying to do my job the best I could.
Is there anyone that helped you overcome those challenges?
A lot of people, first and foremost, my parents, and I think, they've always been really supportive of me being a coach. They've always been really supportive of instilling in me the right habits of hard work and discipline. And so that's where a lot of the foundation of our program comes from. I think a lot about, times where I made mistakes or times that I had success and how my parents treated me. And I try to treat our players the same. And then I have a lot of mentors, coaches that I played for that I learned from. And some of those guys I learned from in a positive way. And there's other coaches I've had that I've learned from in a negative way. And maybe in some of those experiences where I didn't like how the coach communicated to me or the way that the coach treated me, I try to remember that as I'm coaching our players. Because there's obviously a bunch of different ways that you have to communicate with people because everyone has different personalities.
Throughout your career, you had big wins, including multiple championships. What do you think were some of your biggest wins?
There's a lot of games that have been, big wins for me. And I think, my first year as the head coach, we won a big game at Quinnipiac University in the semifinals of a conference tournament. And that was a huge confidence builder for me as a coach because they were maybe one of the best teams in the league. And for us to be able to go on the road and win that game with a lot of young players and a young coach gave me confidence that I could do this, at a high level. We've had some championship wins that have been super exciting. We've had some postseason wins. In 2013, we beat Kentucky. In 2015 or 2014, we beat St. John's in the NIT. So those have been some of the wins that I think a lot of the public remembers because those are against some of the bigger name schools in college basketball. But some of the smaller wins where your team really responded well are also really important and memorable to me.
The next question is, what is some advice you would give to kids that want to be successful?
To be consistent in your work. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Whatever you want to become successful at, you have to try to work out every day. Whether it's a sport, whether it's school, whether it's music, how are you working every day to try to improve the littlest bit at whatever you want to become great at, right? I tell our players all the time, there's no such thing as like a great one-day workout person or a good one-day workout or 1 week workout person, right? You have to be consistent. You have to be working every day. You have to have plans and discipline in order to work every day and try and, push yourself to get a little bit better and be a little bit uncomfortable. That's a good thing, right? Because when you make some mistakes and you have some failure, a lot of times that leads you to the next right answer. And so, don't be afraid of putting yourself out there and working consistently and making some mistakes and having some failure because that's how you learn, right? No one has ever, come out of the crib and been able to shoot 3-point shots or dunk a basketball, right? It's a process. And don't be afraid to work that process every day.
What are some of your favorite things to do in the Pittsburgh area?
I'm a big fan of Pittsburgh. It's a great city. I go to Pittsburgh Pirate games in the summertime. There's a lot of great restaurants in the city of Pittsburgh that I go to. I have 2 sons that are one's in 6th grade, one's in 4th grade. And so they're really active in youth sports. And so I go to a ton of youth sports events. We do a lot of things in our community, whether it's high school football games or high school basketball games. And, just being out and about with a lot of the people in the city of Pittsburgh is really enjoyable for me. There's a lot of great neighborhoods that you can go and explore and do different things in. And so my wife and my kids and I, we do that very often.
Thank you for coming on our podcast.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap. We're out.